Welcome to Win with Richardson and Richardson. What's important now? Success in business most often comes down to hard work, not by silver bullets and quick fixes. It's knowing where to focus that hard work that's key to winning. Join sales prospecting expert and 3-time seven-figure business founder Carrie Richardson and managing partner of R&R Consulting and former owner of Doberman Technologies, Ian Richardson, for radical honesty regarding strategic planning, accountability, and execution that will get you the systematic results you're working toward. Let's get into today's episode. Thought leader and your host, Carrie Richardson.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carrie Richardson, and I am the host of the Win podcast, where we ask an important question: what's important now? With me today is David Dulany, who is the founder of Tenbound. And a little blast from the past. David was one of the primary reasons that my business succeeded way back in the day. He worked for an organization called OpenDNS, and they exited to Cisco, and they were one of our very first clients. So, David, thanks for taking some time, as always, to spend some time with me today.
Oh my gosh, pleasure's all mine. One of my favorite people in the world. I'm so happy to be on this and chop it up with you. I know that you're doing amazing things, and anything that I can do to help the audience, I'm excited.
So tell us a little bit about how Tenbound came to be.
Oh my gosh. When we met, I was running a sales development team, which is, they call them SDRs, BDRs, et cetera, at OpenDNS. And we needed appointments. We had an in-house team, but it wasn't enough for the ever thirsty salespeople that needed appointments, right? And especially in the MSP world, we were, I think, just getting into that area. Andrew Kaiser was running the MSP team at OpenDNS. We're going to be dropping a lot of names on this podcast, okay? And he came and was like, hey, can we position the SDR team to try to get us some meetings in the MSP world? And your name came up immediately as the queen of MSP prospecting. And it's still that. We started working together, and I can say that I was managing probably 3 or 4 different outsourced SDR agencies going direct, or you were the only MSP specialty, and none of those could perform. And I can name names, but none of those outsourced agencies performed well. But every time MSP managed sales pros, they were delivering really high quality appointments week after week, and everybody loved you. And that is how we met initially.
I'm definitely taking that quote, sing that one for sure.
Sure. Okay.
Tell me about Tenbound.
Absolutely. Tenbound is a research and advisory firm that works primarily in the B2B go-to-market tech space. And so what that means is we study the market, we find best practices, best technology, what cutting edge sales teams are using, and then we offer advice in that area. So what should you do now in order to build pipeline and revenue? And then at the same time, people are really interested in sales technology. That's what we hear the most from our audience. And so we've developed a database of the top sales technology vendors, and we're starting to build up that as a really great way to research sales technology solutions, read reviews, get information, and then be able to make better decisions. So that's Tenbound.
You also host a conference every year, correct?
Yes, we do. We are known for the conference. We've done them in San Francisco, in Austin, and we're doing them online this year as virtual conferences. And we bring together the Carries of the world to teach us about how to deliver go-to-market strategies. And then we bring the sales technology vendors to the conversation as well, so that they can get in front of the audience.
Yeah, I never get invited back to any conference I speak at in San Francisco. What are you doing? You don't need that. You don't need that either. And you also don't need that. Although now I'm recognizing that had I made an investment in some different sales technology with managed sales pros, Even if that had meant 1, 2, 3 more appointments per client per month, our retention would have been significantly better. We could have charged a lot more. So it likely would have paid off. I was just very against having this enormous bloated technology stack for outbound calling. You need a phone, you need a computer, you need something to track who you're calling. What's the most interesting product you've seen in sales technology in the last couple of years?
When you came to the conference and when we were working together, there was a lot of sales technology developed all at the same time. And I think sales is really hard, and people are looking for what's the next silver bullet that I can just plug in and nirvana of sales. And I hate to throw a bucket of water on the whole thing, but there is no silver bullet. Hopefully everybody knows that there's no thing like one thing that you can plug in, solve all of your sales problems. Your tech stack back in the day probably could have used like a couple of things to juice it up a little bit, but you don't need 100 different tools, definitely. And the way that people manage the technology is problematic, and that now sales reps can just go on and start taking free trials and doing like freemium products without even telling you. So you might have 10, 20 different sales tech tools plugged in on your team and not even realize what all of them do or what they are. There's a thought process of saying, okay, what is our sales process and where do we have pieces missing that we could potentially plug something in, not just, oh, that looks like a really cool thing, let me just plug it in. I don't even know how it helps in the big picture. To your question, some of the most promising things that I've seen is there's technologies that are coming out that it can actually identify who is on your website from a like contact level perspective. And to be honest, I don't even know if these things are legal, and it might come out that they're not, but it's absolutely game changing for especially a small business owner like me, where I can have a theory about who my customers are and who might be interested in looking at Tenbound, but being able to actually see who they are on a contact level basis, it's changed my whole marketing approach and the company itself. So that's really promising.
I love the spyware. When I look at the intent data, when I make the phone call, I'm like, hey, my spy software said you were looking at our website and you were interested in buying whatever. Is that true? It can be an interesting way to start a phone call, right? And
yeah, I mean, I've gotten a few of those, and I realize now that people can tell that it's David Dulany looking at their website pricing page. And if you think about that, it's very creepy on one hand, but on the other hand, it's if you're at a retail store and somebody walks in, you're face to face and they're looking around and you can talk to them and you don't know what their name is and stuff like that. But it's no different than being online.
do you shop in retail stores?
I do. Yeah, I do. I like going into stores and seeing. It's a nice experience. San Francisco is challenged right now based on a lot of the stuff that's happening. But yeah, I like it.
I miss having small variety, like just different stores that you can wander in and out of. During the pandemic, a lot of them closed here and they did not reopen. So it's tragic that brick and mortar is going the way of the dodo. But I also have an enormous box of crap that I'm never going to send back to Amazon.
Yeah, it's funny. My wife would laugh because I love returning things like in the boxes. Like I love putting them in the boxes. I don't know what it is. It's got some weird thing, but taping it up, getting it all ready, driving it over to the UPS store, returning it, and then ding, it comes back on our credit card. And yes, I really feel accomplished when I do that. But real quick, one thing I do have to say, going back to the software, if you're using that contact level identification software on your website, I would be really careful. Hey, Carrie, I saw you're on my website in that creepy, almost stalkerish way. I would definitely work on your messaging.
That's why it's not working.
Somebody eventually, the FCC or somebody's going to come along and go, you can't do this anymore. And they're going to shut down all these companies. But in the meantime, all I do is I look at the company and then I look at the person and I might follow them on LinkedIn and just start to enter into their orbit. And if they post something about they need help with their sales strategy or they're confused about sales technology, maybe I'll go on and make a comment that like, hey, that's what we do and give me a call. I would just treat it carefully. I wouldn't go straight after them like that. Like some people have done that to me and I find it to be super creepy.
When your phone rings while you're still on the website, can you give me 5 minutes to even see what you do? I might have ended up there accidentally for all you know.
Nobody wants to train their SDRs right now in this environment. And I understand that. SDRs are a huge expense. And now you're going to spend a bunch of money training them. I understand that. But you really should. And if you're listening to this and you need to train your salespeople, give me a call. Say you spend all this money and that a great prospect is on your website. You see them, you have their phone number, you call. Now you've spent all this money to forge that conversation. Don't blow it. Say something interesting that piques their interest and gets them talking versus, hey, I saw that you were on my website and we're the top producer of MSP solution. It's just terrible. You got to train your people.
If you're starting with cold lists, you don't ship that off to Fiverr. You don't give it to your overseas call center, because if the contact answers the phone and the only thing you do is ask them how to spell their name and what their email address is, and if this is still their phone number, you've probably lost the opportunity to ever connect with them again. The first person that you're ever going to interact with should be the best person that you're going to interact with, not your third string $4 an hour player.
Totally. And honestly, like my phone rings off the hook all day. And I can tell you, if it's from an outside area code I've never heard of, I'm not answering it. And I'll send it to voicemail. You can leave me a voicemail. Maybe it is. If it's in my area code and I'm expecting a call, like my dog is at the vet or I'm waiting for some medical results to come back, I might answer it. But I can tell you, if you're Bob from XYZ MSP and you're talking to me about my telecom solutions, I'm going to hang up. There's all these debates about, is cold calling still viable? It probably is for a lot of industries. I can tell you for the Tenbound research person who's answering this, it doesn't work for me.
It's still working for me. I don't know if it's just persistence or having an unconventional style or just being unafraid of rejection or what. I have no problem picking up the phone. I don't need a script. I don't need any of it. But I also do start conversations like, hey, I noticed you were on our website. What do you want?
I'm talking about receiving cold calls, and you're talking about making cold calls.
Someone has to answer them, David.
I know. I'm sure that now you can, sales technology. Okay, let's talk about parallel dialers. That, I think, is a piece of technology that could have made you a lot of money at managed sales. There's this whole new crop that have come out, and people are just absolutely bonkers over these tools because I don't know how they do it, but they apply some sort of algorithm to millions of phone numbers, and they're just pinging back to all these different phone numbers, and then they'll connect and then deliver the call back to you. So there's a live person on there, which is what Connect and Sell used to do. But now it's all computerized. You can have one SDR with a computer making 500 phone calls a day. After all that, I would argue that if someone's plugging in a parallel dialer to their SDR team, they don't give a shit about their brand. Dude, we have 3 months of cash left. We need to sell some stuff like right now. Like, here's a parallel dialer, Mr. SDR, who's 22 years old. What they're doing. Go dial 500 people and see if you could sell some of this stuff. I think that's probably, I don't know. Maybe that's what the mentality is. But they seem, at least from my perspective, these parallel dialers are constantly promoting themselves on LinkedIn, and they're talking about how great everything is. they must be working, I think, for somebody.
If you have a larger center with a lot of agents where there's always someone available, right? A large outsourced call center, for example, where you've got like 50 agents working on one project on behalf of one client, a dialer there makes sense, right? Like you got a lot of people and they got to be busy all day. If you've only got 3 people, they can probably figure out what phone number to call next. But
Yeah.
I also find it's a fine line between a pleasant work environment and a sweatshop, right? And the idea that I'm just going to be force-fed calls all day long until it's time to go to the bathroom. Like I can't work in that environment. Like I need a couple of minutes to diffuse after a really bad call, and I need a couple of minutes to pat myself on the back and strut around the office after a good call. So the dialer thing is, yeah, I guess you could hang it up, but I guarantee you there's somebody in the back room administratively pulling the numbers to see how many times you turned off the dialer today.
Yeah, that's true. And it depends on the company too, because a lot of people that I'm talking to, it's like they have remote teams and they're distributed across the world. And so they're plugging in these things in a big office environment and a big call center environment. They probably have stuff like this already plugged in. But I agree. I don't know. It seems pretty dehumanizing to work like that.
I don't think it's changed much from like my first $8 an hour telemarketing job where it was just like an enormous cubicle farm, a headset, and a computer, although the computers are probably better. And there'd be like a little like blinky light. And then you'd know that the call connected when the light stopped blinking, but it cut off them saying hello. So you had to assume that they'd answered the phone and you just start talking. And the minute you clicked to hang up the phone or they disconnected the call, the thing just started again. You'd go all day. It was exhausting.
Crazy. Yeah, I'll take you so far back. In one of my first jobs, they would hand us like a stack of the cards, like the little postcards that people mailed in for information. And it was like the Glengarry leads. Only certain people, but they weren't Glengarry leads. They were just like, you can win a trip to Las Vegas or something if you fill in this thing and put it in. So then we would sit down at a dummy terminal that was just a black screen with a name and start calling these people. And I was pretty happy to have a job. And so it was pretty cool. We've definitely come a long way since then.
From index cards and pens?
Yeah. Now it's you saddle up, plug in your parallel dialer, work for 2 hours, and then go to the pool and relax by the side and hope that your Slack thing doesn't pop up with your boss wondering where you are.
I feel like all our kids are going to have to do is think about the person they want to call.
Yeah.
And then think about the conversation they want to have. It'll be all sci-fi.
I'm hoping that we get to the point where you can just ask Alexa, please connect me with the head of marketing at IBM. And bing, there he is. He pops up.
That sounds like a dream. Although I won't even, when we bought this house, I made Ian disconnect the Nest thermostat and the Ring doorbell. I refuse to have any of that stuff in my house.
You're off the grid there. Huh?
And I'm never wrong. Ring is having to refund billions of dollars to customers.
I'm sure that it's watching me and taking down all the details of my life, but it's nice to know there's somebody at the front door and who they are.
It's the Amazon guy. That's the only guy that comes to my house.
One thing I learned working at OpenDNS, I was in the cybersecurity industry for 2 years, and you learn from day one that all of your information is out on the dark web. You're completely owned. You're completely vulnerable at all times to hackers, and that's freeing because they know everything about me.
Well, there goes my next guest.
Nothing to hide.
I may as well cancel that podcast.
And, just a side note, I went to the RSA conference recently, and you come down the escalator into the Moscone Center, which is the biggest convention center in San Francisco, and there's over 500 vendors, and the big boys have the end caps with the giant displays and everything, but then there's cybersecurity vendors over there. And the first thing I thought was, if I'm a CISO, how the hell do I know even where to start with talking to these vendors? And then as a marketer, I was walking around talking to all the SDRs who were working at the booths and just seeing what their sales pitch was like and what they were doing to engage the audience. It's a cool industry, and there's a lot of money changing hands for sure. And the hackers are never going to go away. So it's got a big future.
So you worked with OpenDNS. You moved on to found Tenbound. Tell me about what you've learned about being an entrepreneur.
Get a very understanding spouse before you start. That's a very important decision, and it's not to be taken lightly on either side. I wrote a blog about this, the 7 things I learned running Tenbound for 7 years, which was last year. But let's see. Finding product market fit is everything, whether it's product market fit or service is everything. And I tell you this because I came from a sales background and a marketing background. And when I first started the company, I thought that sales cures everything. And all you have to do is be a great marketer and you'll get them in the door. But the problem is, if you don't have that fit of what the market needs and what they're looking for, and you can't deliver on the value that the customers are looking for, then you're basically filling an empty bucket. And I used to scoff at like the really product-led founders who just talked about the product all the time and how great it was. But actually, they're onto something, because any advice I would give people is start with a great product or service that's incredibly high quality and people are remarking on, and then build your sales engine off of that. You can't go the other way.
What was the most surprising thing about being an entrepreneur?
Oh, I think that being an entrepreneur, it forces you to really look in the mirror, and it kills your ego in the way that you could think that you're the smartest person and you've got the best ideas and the market's going to love everything about you. But you're dealing in reality, and you have to be able to put your ego aside and listen to the market and what it's telling you, and adjust based on what you're hearing and what's working and what's selling. I think that somebody said, if you find yourself as the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room, because you got to be able to surround yourself with people who will disagree with you and push you and cause you to move forward, and not just be right all the time about everything.
What was the task you were happiest to hand off to someone else when you could finally afford to bring on employees?
Oh my God, anything organization related. I worked with a bunch of different executive assistant, like online executive assistants, and then an actual company that is associated with EOS. I can't remember the name of the company now, but it's an executive assistant, almost like a chief of staff company. And they work very well with crazy visionary entrepreneurs who are completely disorganized and need.
I'm going to need that name.
It's knowing your strengths and weaknesses. They're on full display at all times, because you don't have to be fake as an entrepreneur. You have to understand what you're good at and what you're not, and offload the stuff that you're not good at as soon as you can afford it. That's my recommendation. Oh,
that wasn't counting.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm terrible at that too. Delegate solutions. They're called delegate solutions, and they are highly recommended.
All right. I'll reach out to the CEO.
Her name's Emily, and she would be great on the podcast.
So we've got a couple of more minutes before we have to say goodbye. Tell me about what you think is going to happen in sales technology in the next 5 years. What's going to be the big trend, or what would you lean towards? If you were going to build a sales development team now, what products are you exploring? What AI makes sense, and where should you avoid it?
Oh my gosh, a great answer. So if you're just starting out, I would say do not hire SDRs. I would say hire a great sales operations person in that case, and have the sales operations person design your tech stack properly based on your sales process. And that means that whatever the tool is, whatever the new fancy silver bullet coming out, there's an infrastructure in place that makes sense and is cost effective and creates the opportunities for the sales team. So start with the sales operations, have them map it out, and then start to build the team based on that success. The reason I say that is because landscape is changing and new tools are constantly coming out that can help support salespeople and SDRs. And you can't just, I say it's like there's this thing called a Rube Goldberg machine where it's just all these parts and things put together and they're not really talking to each other and it doesn't work well. And it's a waste of time and money. And that's just something that right now we really need to focus on.
How are SDRs using software independent of the companies that are paying them? But how does that even happen? You worked in security. I've worked with dozens of security companies. There is a 0% chance anyone could have downloaded anything onto their computers.
Yeah, that's a good place to start. Make sure that you know exactly what's happening on everybody's computers. And it's one tab away to go in and basically run your own company. Another thing is a lot of SDRs and salespeople have side hustles where they're running a whole other company on the side, not even beknownst to the company that they work for because they're working at home. So that they can, I even heard of people who have 2 to 3 other jobs and they're working other jobs at the same time while they're working at your company. So you think that you're paying them for 8 hours a day and you're actually getting 2 hours a day and they're splitting it with other things. It's happening right now. It's super easy for people to do this. And a lot of times you don't even have to download anything. You just run it off of your browser and put it in a VPN and in a private browser, and your company might not even ever find out that you're doing it.
I'm just imagining the rage I'd be experiencing upon discovering that my sales rep had 2 other jobs at the same time. I suppose if they can do their job in 2 hours, why not just pay them for 8? Who cares? They're getting the same results as the 8-hour guy. Does it really matter?
No, not really. But it's just that what happens with salespeople is they're doing really well for a while and then they start struggling. A month goes by, they're going downhill, they're getting training, they're getting a performance improvement plan. 2 months go by. Now we're into the 3rd month and they're just like flatline. They have no pipeline. And so finally somebody has to fire them. And then, oh, woe and behold, they've been working at 2 other jobs for the last 3 months. I don't know. From a small business perspective where every penny counts, for me, that feels like theft. But that's just me. I guess big corporations they're not as upset about it.
I don't know. I guess in sales, if my quota is X and I can hit it in 2 hours, it's one of the reasons I became an entrepreneur, right? If I can hit my quota telemarketing in 2 hours and it takes everyone else 8, why are you penalizing me? Why can't I just go home? I did exactly what you wanted. I've achieved my goal for the day. Just give me my check and let me walk out the door. And finally, I was like, no, if I can do this in 2 hours, I'm going to do it for myself.
Totally. Yeah. I more power to you. I would encourage everybody to do that. I think only 4% of the population is entrepreneurial or something like that. It's a very small percentage. Most people need to go to work and get paid every 2 weeks and they want to barbecue on the weekends and stuff. I don't know. It just depends. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's a quarter. I consider doing that for at least 5 minutes. Like, what the hell are you doing with your life? Why don't you just go get a job? How much money did you actually make last year? When I first started managed sales pros, I don't think a month went by where I wasn't like, I'm just going to get a job. This is terrible.
Totally. I feel like that every 2 weeks.
Right.
It's like, and I look at the bank and there's nothing in there, but everybody's got a different, I would love to make boatloads of money and be able to float off and down in Mexico on a boat. But there's also the freedom aspect and just not having to put up with a lot of BS all the time, which it was really grating. It was definitely not at OpenDNS, but
Of course not.
toward the end of my career, I was just like, one time very quickly, I found myself at a Dave & Buster's in Roseville, California, with a bunch of fellow 40-somethings wearing acid wash jeans and trying to pretend to have fun at a corporate offsite. And I was just thinking, what the hell am I doing with my life? Like, why am I at Dave & Buster's right now with a bunch of people that I'm not particularly fond of? I look back at that moment and it would be great to just like jettison and get out.
I can't think of a better place to stop than that. And I have never been to a Dave & Buster's, and I guess I've made a good choice there.
You are a lucky woman.
Thank you, as always, David, for joining me, and I will look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Thanks, Carrie.
You've been listening to Win with Richardson and Richardson. What's important now? We're so glad you've joined us and know you're one step closer to winning big in your business too. We'd love to connect with you outside of the show. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to connect@rnr.consulting. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you'll easily know when new episodes are available. Until next time, you can win, and we're here to help.